I am but an average forum board user, but not until 11 years ago when the site became part of a large group investigating, what should I call it? A strange incident that happened in Russia. Here's my story of what I gathered about the incident. On October 17, 1997, 6 teenagers were arrested for driving erratically near a school district in a carpool. They were reported to be in pain, most of them complaining of hallucinations and headaches. Police suspected them of taking drugs, but upon further investigation and a drug test, the report concluded that it was not drugs. The 6 teenagers were sent to a local hospital for evaluation of their diseases. All 6 patients refused to give their names and so were given numbers instead. 1 in 4 were females and the rest were all male patients. After a hospital stay of 10 days, the doctors were puzzled at what the patients were suffering from. They reported incoherent talking, screaming, and a strange rash on their chests. A short background investigation followed, and the only unusual thing reported was that 2 months ago, the group of 6 friends took a hike in the mountainous wilderness. They had then caught some kind of spore during their trip and suffered anthrax-like symptoms once they returned. Fortunately, after treatment, these symptoms disappeared. It was decided to send the patients to the Fuik Research and Hospital Center, located just a few miles from the hospital, as many doctors suspected this may be a new disease. Afterwards, what happened was apparently classified by the government and cast by which many claim was a cover story. What the government claimed was that over a period of 2 weeks of testing, all the patients were declared to have a pneumonia-like disease, likely caused by secondary infections from the spores they picked up at the previous mountain hike. But it was too late for treatment, and all 6 patients died. Their bodies were cremated and sent to family members in urns. However, there were a few suspicious sides of this story that lead many to believe the government was trying to hide something from the public. First off, many of the teenagers' families had issued a statement wishing for the teenagers' bodies to be delivered to them for formal burial, and none of the families requested for their bodies to be cremated. And an even more strange fact was that the research laboratory where the patients resided abruptly closed down. According to rumors, at just about the exact time the teenage patients were declared dead, armed guards stood outside the building, wearing SWAT-style body armor and holding assault rifles. A few wanderers reported the doors of the building to be bolted shut completely, and all windows of the building covered with black material, likely curtains. All these facts eventually led to a general group on the internet forum I was in to start an investigation on if there was a secret side to the story. I was curious about everything, and I joined. I became one of the biggest informers of the group. Many anonymous users sent me detailed logs, information and reports that they claimed to have recovered about the Fuik patients, but none of them really pointed to any real nor new information. Years passed. The forum eventually started to lose its popularity, and the group shrank. I myself was thinking of resigning from the site when one user, under the name of Malayak113, sent me a private message. He claimed he was trying to retrieve the video memory of the security cameras at Fuik, which had backup videos stored online at the research center's site. I kept in touch via PMs with this guy. Eventually, I gave him my email, and every day he began to email me with what he had gotten with the site. For the first few weeks, he got nothing out of the hacking. And then, almost a month later, he sent me a large gigabyte video on an online private video host and told me to try to skim through it. I opened up my video editing software and took a look at the video. It was kind of boring, to be honest. There was a room that was completely white and had an eerily sterile feeling to it. The patients were all lying in square white beds with white bed sheets. I sped the video up. Nothing really interesting happened. The patients would once in a while turn around in bed, cough, or maybe sit up, and doctors and nurses would come in once in a while to check up on them and provide food and drinks or medical attention. Overall, the video didn't seem to be very strange or different. On the second day, the videos were the same, and the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Soon, my friend didn't even bother making a description anymore. There was just no subject title. However, one Friday night, I noticed something strange about the patients on the seventh day of the tape. I played the video on super sped up as always. The patients seemed to be in the same condition they'd been for the week, but there was something different this time when the timestamp of the video read from about 10 o'clock in the morning. I don't know how to accurately describe this, but the patients' bodies were slowly, very slowly, noticeably starting to swell, mostly in the stomach and chest areas. It was late at night, so I didn't dare to watch the rest of the video because it was really creeping me out, and I'm not a fan of nightmares. But now, I was very curious to know the rest of the story to this mystery. The next day, my friend's email arrived at 7 o'clock in the morning. This time, he included a voice message with it. Apparently, he watched the video as well. His voice was very shaky, and I could just read the fear in his voice as he spoke.
Did you notice something about those Fuik patients in the last video I sent you? I just watched it, and what I saw, the patients were like, just bloating up. And the way they moaned, it freaked me out. Now we know that we're looking at a mystery, and the way I see it, a really disturbing one, too. I'm not gonna look at this next one. So if you can, watch it, and tell me what's in it.
My hands were shaking as I clicked the host link and the new tab opened up. You know that cold, clammy feeling where the back of your neck is all prickly, sort of like when you were waiting for the picture of a gruesome murder scene to load? I was having that exact sort of feeling right then. The circling buffering icon seemed to take forever to load. Finally, the play button appeared, and holding my breath, I loaded it into my video editor and played it. Things didn't seem to get any better for the patients. Their skin was a sickening reddish color, as if they'd been in a tanning bed for 6 hours straight. The bloating also didn't seem to quell. Over the next 5-hour period, sped up into 5 minutes, I watched in disbelief as the patients' chest areas started to rise. They were soon so puffed that a bit of their stomach showed through the top of their shirts. It was clearly visible even at an overhead view. I didn't want to see any more of the video. I clicked out of the host site and hammered out a quick reply to my friend, claiming that I didn't notice any swelling and that he probably just saw it wrong. I didn't like to lie like that, but at the same time, I didn't want to freak him out with what the patients looked like at this point. The next day, the sun seemed to take forever to rise. Partly because I was hunched over my laptop starting from 5 in the morning, running through the facts of what I saw in the video to the forum post group, but most people didn't believe me. I can't blame them. Then, at 11:38, a beep sounded on my email app and a new message pop-up appeared. He didn't include a message this time, probably since he was too scared to view the video and pre-inform me of anything. I dragged the video onto my editor as usual. After it loaded and buffered, I hit the play button, forgetting to speed it up. The timestamp of the video read 6:21 a.m. The screen was pitch black for a couple of seconds, then there was a white flash, and the video slowly dimmed in. What I saw made me scream. Every one of the patients, every single one of them, was lying in a pool of blood. Dead. These patients are dead. That was the first thing that came to my mind. But then, A sudden movement at the bottom of the screen caught my eye. It was one of the patients. He or she was still alive. I'm not sure of their gender because they were too disfigured by the bloating in the dark from the early morning to be made out. I dragged the video flipper forward about 5 hours to around noon on the timestamp. The scene was gruesome. The white sheets of the patient's bed were stained with blood and strange brownish-red fluid, and judging by the scrunched-up faces of the few doctors and nurses that entered the room throughout the day, it must have smelled pretty bad, too. I'm sorry to say this, guys, but all of this footage was too disturbing for me to bear. I skipped 4 days of the video, only viewing the last one at the end of the 2-week period of the patient's stay. What I saw on the final day of the security camera footage is going to haunt me for the rest of my life. The tape started up at about 1 in the afternoon. The patients were now horribly bloated, deformed, with yellowish fluid seeping from gaping, open sores in every visible part of their body. But it wasn't just the patients. At around 3 in the afternoon, a figure walked into the room, wearing a starch white coat. It took me a while to register that the man had to be a doctor or a scientist, and it took me even longer to recognize the long black object he was holding in his hands. It was an assault rifle. The guy pulls back some sort of mechanism on the gun and then, in a split second, had the gun raised and aimed. 30 bullets flew through the air in less than 4 seconds, full auto. I've never heard a gun sound so loud. Movies had exaggerated it way too much. The patients didn't cry out or react at all to the bullets. They just suddenly shuddered as the bullets slammed into them, driving them backwards. And then they lay still. 2 days later, I finally realized what was wrong. Why the teenagers were cremated. Why they were so horribly deformed in the videos. And why that doctor stormed into the room with a gun and shot all of them. 2 days of research have finally brought me to the disturbing conclusion. The patients had already been dead when they arrived at Fuik. They were dead for the whole 2-week period. Yet they were moving and talking. And the most disturbing part of all, their bloating was from the first stages of decomposition. For 2 weeks, I was watching footage of 6 rotting corpses. If you made it this far, I hope you'll follow me on Twitter at KingSpook Creepy.